Play. Bata. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Prabhupada Paramahamsa Prabhupada Stotra Shata Shri Srimad Shila Bhai Janaranya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Thakur Hridasa Ki Jai Prem Se Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Devi Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Rani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness Ki Jai. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Nrsimha Chaturdashi Ki Jai. We're very fortunate to be here in Vrindavan today to celebrate this most auspicious occasion of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Narahari Rupa, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Lord Nrsimhadev, who appeared mainly to benedict his devotee Prahlad Maharaj. We'll be hearing. So we'll begin as always with Mangala Charanam. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madgavira Vigopala Swikuryat Krivaya Yadi Tadaiva Sampayaha Pitva Hrishe Yustat Priyajanaha. My only purpose in life is to give pleasure to the devotees, and so I humbly bow down to all of your lotus feet and beg your blessings that I may say something in glorification of the Lord and his appearance as Lord Nrsimhadev. The most unqualified person, but in a moment of weakness, I agreed to give the class today. So we'll say what we can. Bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the 11th verse of the first ocean and first chapter, he defines pure devotional service. And that is Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavratam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. The transcendental bhakti, or the best bhakti, is that which is completely devoid of any desires from two broad realms that engage us in non-devotional activity. The first is fruitive interests, personal agendas, karma. And the other one is the tendency to try or moksha, jnana. For that purpose, we engage in philosophical speculation. So these are our two things. That is the two symptoms of our disease here as conditioned souls in this material world. We're constantly trying to exploit the Lord's resources, and when we get in trouble for that, we're trying to escape from the reactions that we have created, or we try to evade the Lord's authority in whatever way he manifests. He comes again and again in his own form, or in a novel form like Nrsimhadev, but more likely he sends his devotees. And so that's very significant as well. But this is the definition of bhakti. In his commentary, Srila Jiva Goswami notes that because Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, when Rupa Goswami mentions Krishna Anushilanam, he means not only Krishna, but all the other forms of the Lord as well. Krishna Shabdas Chatra Swayam Bhagavataha Shri Krishnasya Tad Rupanam Chanyesham Abhi Grahaka. So that's important for us because we hear from Lord Brahma, our Sampradaya Acharya, Adi Guru, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 9, Text 11. Tvam bhakti yoga peribhavata hrit saroja ase suratekshita patho nanupnata pungsam yad yadhiya gaya vibhavayanti tadvadvapuhu pranayase saranugraha. My dear Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears. Through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed. And you take your seat there. You're so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Somebody is a worshipper of Jagannath. Somebody worships the Lord as Balaji. Somebody else has to have Sitaram. Someone else, Balagopal. And for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, most of us are worshipping Sri Sri Radha Krishna, but even then, we have to approach Radha Krishna through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, all these different forms are there. Prabhupada mentions in many different places, but in his purport to this verse, he emphasizes that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him. That means that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desires of his devotees. So much so that he manifests a particular form as the devotee demands. The demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord. It's liable in terms of the transcendental, loving service. We've many times described this term. It's a shibboleth that we find throughout Srila Prabhupada's books. Transcendental, loving service. That service has to be transcendental, first of all. That's our first concern. And then it has to be loving, imbued with bhava. Bhava samanvidaha. And then there has to be this practical activity to demonstrate what we feel. That's service. You have to do something. I always point out there's famous In Tamil Nadu, there's a famous Kathakar. His name is Velukuri Krishnan. And he has established a trust for the purpose of spreading devotional service. What does he call it? He calls it Kinchit Karam Trust. Kinchit Karam means do something. So this is their understanding. So Prabhupada says this, and another thing he emphasizes here is that, but on the other hand, that the Lord is pliable in terms of our desires, or the pure devotees' desires, that doesn't mean that the Lord will disclose himself to a casual or unauthentic worshiper to be exploited. Sometimes they say, Nija Bhakta Bhogya, the Lord is enjoyed by his devotee, but it's not with the attitude of enjoyment. Sit still. It's the Lord wants to impart devotional service so that we can learn this spirit of surrender. For that reason, he comes, as especially in Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but in age after age after age, we know that Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrataha, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or to the casual devotees. This is another phrase that Prabhupada uses a lot. What does casual devotee mean? Casual. We have a casual attitude towards devotional service. What does it mean? Really, it means we're sahajiyas, those who take things very cheaply, casual devotees. That's what he means here. Who are serving their sense gratification rather than his order. There are orders to be fulfilled, and we have to fulfill those. Can you think of any orders we've received that have not been fulfilled? There are quite a few of them, if you're thoughtful. So the Lord is never visible to devotees who are casual about this. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of a pseudo-devotee, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. And this assembly this morning is living proof of this fact. Srila Prabhupada was such a pure devotee. He had a desire, let there be a temple here, and it's here. We're sitting in it. Krishna has reciprocated. You can see Srila Prabhupada's beaming smile in the picture. The first day, when he offered Arati to Krishna Balaram, the Lord is very happy to give his pure devotee whatever he wants. Okay, there's no Krishna Balaram temple, you can have it. You see? This standard of devotion, but first you have to be like Srila Prabhupada. That's a tall order. So bona fide devotees, they respect all of the Lord's unlimited and non-dual forms. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a very striking purport, actually. Srila Prabhupada mentions this. Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text number 155. There, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written, Eka Ishvara Bhaktir Dhyana Nurupa Ekai Vigrahe Kare Nana Karurupa. There is no difference between the transcendental forms of the Lord. Different forms are manifest due to different attachments of different devotees. Actually, the Lord is one, but he appears in many different forms just to satisfy his devotees. In his purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada gives us a stern warning not to artificially try and fail to distinguish the different forms of the Lord before we've even realized what differentiates transcendental and mundane distinction. There's a big difference. Making distinctions on your mundane conception and making distinctions based on transcendental rasa. So Prabhupada writes here, he quotes Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam Anadam Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Ityadi. The Lord is Advaita, this is Prabhupada speaking, without differentiation. There is no difference between the forms of Krishna, Rama, Narayana, and Vishnu. All of them are one. Sometimes foolish people ask if the name Rama I'm sorry. When we chant Rama in the Hare Krishna mantra, we refer to Lord Ramchandra or to Lord Balaram. If a devotee says that the name Rama in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra refers to Balaram, a foolish person may become angry, because to him, the name Rama refers to Lord Ramchandra. Actually, there's no difference between Balaram and Lord Ram. It does not matter if one chants Hare Ram referring to Balaram or to Lord Ramchandra, for there's no difference between them. However, it is offensive to think that Balaram is superior to Lord Ramchandra, or vice versa. It's an interesting thing to consider. Prabhupada's words. Neophyte devotees do not understand this Shastric conclusion, and consequently they unnecessarily create an offensive situation. In text 54, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clarified this in a very lucid way. Ishwaratve bhedamani le hoy aparadha. It is offensive for one to differentiate between the forms of the Lord. On the other hand, one should not think that the forms of the Lord are the same as the forms of demigods. That's another offense. A second offense against the holy name, as a matter of fact. So the conclusion, Prabhupada writes, is that we should neither differentiate between the forms of the Lord nor equate the forms of the Lord with the forms of demigods or human beings. Unless one is instructed by a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot really understand these different forms. The Brahma Samhita confirms, Vedeshu durlabham, adurlabham atma bhaktao. One cannot understand the differences between the forms of the Lord simply by academic study or by reading Vedic literature. One must learn from a realized devotee. Only then can one learn how to distinguish between one form of the Lord and another. So that's an important thing. Sometimes we prematurely try to distinguish, and I've actually heard many times people say, oh, that's only Vishnu. Only Vishnu. Well, who are you? So, according to Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamritam, first part, text 134, the Lord's sixfold opulences are all complete in Lord Nrsimhadev, Ramchandra, and Krishna. These are his most important forms. They're called Paravastas. We've just said that there's no distinction between these forms, and yet Rupa Goswami gives a special position to these three in particular. They're called Paravastas, in a higher condition, if you will. So, we have a problem. To eventually come to the point of maturely appreciating truly transcendental variety, most of us have an immediate need for what? Anartha nivritti. We have to be purified. And for this purpose, Lord Nrsimhadev is worshipped as Bhakti Vighna Vinashaka. What is a Vighna except for an Anartha? All of the obstacles. Vighna means obstacle. Anartha is also an obstacle. So we have to remove these things. In our world headquarters in Mayapur, we all know, Lord is being worshipped there as Ugra Nrsimhadev for the benediction of Anartha Nivritti. So those who worship him there, they certainly experience his extraordinary mercy, but this Anartha Nivritti has to happen first, and that can hardly ever be a painless process. It's kind of like when you want to learn Sanskrit. Many people come and they want to learn Sanskrit, but as soon as they realize that you've got to learn all the Sandhi rules before you can even break up a word in Sanskrit, and then they lose interest pretty quickly. This is the experience. You may get 30 students in the beginning of the semester, and there's 2 or 3 at the end. So this is the first thing, but Narasimha is there to help us with that. Anartha Nivritti is the thing that the Sahajiyas and the Mayavadis would like to avoid. The Sahajiyas do so by trying to define their present experience as somehow transcendental and devotional, although it's neither one. And the Mayavadis, they try to sidestep this process by just saying, well, Krishna's Maya anyway, and, Aham Brahmasmi, and I'm already liberated because all I have to do is think that I'm liberated, and that's it. No hard work involved. So these are the two cheating processes. And they're actually two perversions, you can say, of karma and gyan, respectively. So this is what we have to deal with. And so it's better to adopt the humble mood that was demonstrated most perfectly by the person for whom Lord Nrsimhadev appeared. Who is that? Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj. So humble. He always considered himself to be a demon, actually. Many, many times throughout all of his prayers, if you search through the Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, in the 7th canto, everywhere, Prahlad Maharaj is very conscious. He's not thinking, well, I'm transcendental to all this stuff because I'm a devotee. We think like that. But he's not thinking like that. He's thinking, I'm only a demon. But even though I'm a demon, I can still approach you by your causeless mercy, and particularly by the mercy of my spiritual master, Narad Muni. He says, for example, you may know this prayer, Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Jaste Jase Aviravir Bhavavajranakavajradangshta Karmashayan Rantaya Rantaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuyashtha Om Ksham. My dear Lord, he prays, Prahlad Maharaj, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada also, thinking of us, just like Prahlad is thinking of us, Srila Prabhupada instituted daily kirtan for Lord Nrsimhadev in every ISKCON temple worldwide. Way back in maybe, 1968 or 69, as soon as they got Los Angeles Temple, somebody threw a pipe bomb into the window of the temple. Nobody was hurt, fortunately, but Srila Prabhupada took note. And he said, actually, that means our preaching is being effective. If everybody's happy, maybe you're not doing your job. The devotees are supposed to come and stir up the pot a little bit in this material world. Jayadvaita Swami put it very nicely. He said, preaching means to comfort those who are distressed and to distress those who are comfortable. So, Srila Prabhupada was concerned. And in the 10th canto, Srila Prabhupada also writes, just as Vasudeva and Devaki were concerned for their newborn child, Krishna, in the prison of Kamsa, so we are concerned about the welfare of our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is Prabhupada's constant anxiety 24 hours a day. And so he told us, you should worship Lord Nrsimha. And what prayers did he give us? These two verses from the Nrsimha Purana that Lord Chaitanya used to daily chant every day at Jagannath Puri. Namaste Nrsimhaya Prasadadadaine Hiranyakashipuravaksha Shilatankana Khadiye Ito Nrsimho Parato Nrsimho Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsimho Bahya Nrsimho Hridaye Nrsimho Nrsimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. So nice. He says, I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Nrsimhadev, who is the source of bliss for Prahlad Maharaj. He came only to please Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipuravaksha Shilatankana Kaliye. And he is, his nails are bifurcating this Hiranyakashipu. And Ito Nrsimha, the Lord Nrsimhadev is here. Parato Nrsimha, Lord Nrsimhadev is also there. Yato yato yami tato Nrsimha. Wherever I go, Nrsimhadev is there. Bahya Nrsimho, Hridaye Nrsimho, he's outside, he's in my heart. Nrsimham Adim Sharanam Prabhadye. He's the original shelter. And I bow down to his lotus feet. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakamad Bhutashringam Dalita Hiranyakashaputona Bringam Keshavatrutan Rahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jayadev Goswami also, Prabhupada gave us this prayer from Gita Govindam, that with your same idea, with your nails you've bifurcated this Hiranyakashipu. My dear Lord Keshava, Lord Narahari, Jai, all glories to you. Jai Jagadisha Hare. So ISKCON always needs the protection of the Lord Nrsimhadev. We also need the protection. Protection is another one of the Lord's transcendental features. Whoever makes a serious effort to spread Krishna consciousness in this world should only expect to be attacked, or at least abused. You'll get no salary, you'll get no respect, you'll get no paycheck, you'll get only difficulties. And Krishna arranged Srila Prabhupada's own example just to show us that. This is what you can expect. Prahlad Maharaj also. Every devotee who's spreading Krishna consciousness has to expect this. And it's only going to get much, much worse. Even within the next year, some are predicting, depending on what AI does. Anyway, so, because in this world people's hearts are infected with so much envy. Our hearts are infected with the same envy. That's why we have to worship Nrsimhadev, to remove all that stuff, black, ugly stuff from within. So, Nrsimhadev represents ferocious death for those who are demoniac and for those who are clinging to their demoniac attachments. But he mercifully protects those surrendered devotees from all sorts of dangers, those who are surrendered. And Sridhar Swami has given us in his Bhavarta Divika on Srimad Bhagavatam commentary. He's citing the Agamas. He says, Ugropi anugra evayam swabhaktanam nrakesari keshariva swapurtanam anyesham ugra vigraha. Although a lion is ferocious, she is gentle with her own cubs. Similarly, this half-man, half-lion incarnation, Nrakesari, although ferocious towards the demons, isn't ferocious to the devotees. So Nrsimhadev, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yeyas hamam prapadyante tastateva virami. As we approach him, he will reciprocate. So devotees' business is to scrutinize, how am I approaching the Lord? Because if we're actually surrendered, then the Lord becomes Bhakta Vatsala. We'll say more about this in a minute. Bhakta Vatsalya, the love that the Lord has for his devotees. But if we're not actually surrendered, then the Lord appears as a furious monster preparing to kill us. And this is actually stated in the Shruti mantras as well. Before we can appreciate the Lord's very soft, beautiful form of Shyam Sundar kissing the gopis, we may have to realize the Lord's form as an upraised thunderbolt weapon ready to strike us dead. Or if you live in Hiroshima in, 1945, it would be in the form of a nuclear bomb. Even in 2023, anything can happen, right? So, although all the Lord's forms possess equal potency, as we've discussed, still we have these three special forms, the Paravastha forms. And among those, Lord Nrsimha is very special. Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 2nd Ocean, 5th chapter, text 119, that Lord Nrsimhadev is the presiding deity of what? Vatsalya rasa. All the different rasas, they have a presiding deity. I'll recite the verse. Kapilo madhavo pendrao nrsimho nandanandanaha balaha kunamastatha kalki Raghavo Bhargava Kirihi Meena Ityeshu Kadhitaha Kramadvadasha Devataha. There are 12 deities assigned to the 12 rasas as follows. Kapiladev, Shantarasa. Madhava means Dasya rasa or Priti. Upendra, that's Vamanadev, Prayo rasa, Sakya Bhav. Nrsimha, Vatsala. Nandanandana, that's Krishna, means Madhura, naturally. And Balaram, Hasya rasa, Balaram. Kurma is Adbhuta rasa, Kalpi is Veera rasa, Raghavarama is Karuna rasa, Bhargava Parashuram is Raudra, and Kiri, which means Varahadev, is Bhayanaka, the fearful. And Meena is Bibhatsa, or the distasteful. So this is what Jiva Goswami comments here. Just as we have different deities assigned to different planets, so in the same way, he says we have different avatars of the Lord assigned to these rasas in bhakti. And for those who are interested in Vatsalya rasa, Lord Nrsimhadev is the one to worship. That is why Nanda Maharaj was advised to worship Lord Nrsimhadev. Not only for protection, there's a secret meaning here also. Protection is the obvious thing because there are so many, they consider, the Vrajavasis consider Krishna to only be their child, helpless. And they don't know what all these disturbances are coming from. They're not sure about that. But they know that they keep coming, and so they're very concerned, and so they worship Nrsimhadev. For Krishna's protection, that's their transcendental mood. Nrsimha can represent Vatsalya rasa for us also. Why? Because he came to show affection to his child, Prahlad. Vatsa. Actually, Vatsa means bacha, calf, cow's calf. Love that a mother has for the calf is unparalleled, and it's considered to be the model for maternal bhava or paternal bhava in general. So, Vrajavasis have that for Krishna, many of them, and Lord Nrsimhadev also has that rasa for us, because we're all his children in his eyes. So it's not surprising that in Krishna's eternal home, Nanda Maharaj and others worship Lord Nrsimhadev, Vishnu, in his form as Nrsimha. In their absolutely transcendental conception of life, they consider Krishna to be in need of their protection. And he's just a mere child. So this is one of the things that's ironic about Krishna's Leela. Just as in this world, people give only official, devotion to God, but actually they're not too much concerned about him. So in the spiritual world also, although they're worshiping Lord Vishnu, but their real interest is Krishna. The amazing thing is that they have no recollection that Krishna is that Vishnu, that they cannot see. Just as we cannot see. These deities are also Vishnu. Anyway, this is why sometimes Kunti Devi, for example, in the 8th chapter of the 1st canto, text 30, she says, Tadatyanta Vedambanam. This is cheating. Vedambanam means it's a pretense, it's a sham. It's all a show. This whole thing, all of Krishna's Leelas. He's not afraid of anything. He's not a child, he's not anything but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but everything is affected just to please his devotees. This is what Prabhupada writes in the 10th canto. Those who are chanting Gopal mantra, 3 deities in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath. Srila Prabhupada says about the third, Gopinath, the Lord is called Gopijana Vallabha only because he keeps creating all these circumstances in which to please these gopis, elder gopis. And this worship of Lord Nrsimhadev in Krishna Lila is like that. It's only for the purpose of pleasing the devotees. This is a transcendental thing that we cannot enter yet, but by developing Prahlad's humility and by following the rigorous discipline of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which is Srila Prabhupada's hallmark, because you probably don't find it anywhere outside of ISKCON. Real Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. But Prabhupada saw the need for this. And he gave this process to all of us so that we can take advantage of it. Prahlad Maharaj, he prayed humbly to the Lord for his mercy. This is what we have to do. We have to very humbly approach Nrsimhadev on days like this. Actually, every day. We do every day. We've already described. But we have to be mindful and put our heart into this process. And then we can recite some of the prayers that Prahlad Maharaj has composed. We can't compose prayers like he did. Listen to what he said. Evam sukarma padidam bhavavaitaranyam anyonya janma maranashana bhida bhidam pashyanjanam swapara vigraha vairamaitram hanteti parachara piprihi murhamadya. That means, my dear Lord, you are always transcendentally situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we've fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering. And by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, salient thing here is that Prahlad Maharaj is a pure Vaishnava, prays to the Lord not only for himself, but for all other suffering living entities. He says there are two classes of devotees, the Bhajananandis and the Goshtianandis. And the Bhajananandis worship the Lord for their own benefit, but the Goshtianandis try to help others. Even though Prahlad is supposedly a demon, but he has this transcendental attitude that is so far above even other devotees. He's a Mahajan at the same time. Actually, a couple of our Mahajanas are technically demons. It happens. So, this is his wonderful, wonderful character. And you probably know this other verse, Swastiyastu vishvasya khala prasidatam dhyayantu bhutani shivam mithodhiya manascha bhadram bhajatadodhokshaje aveshyatam no matirapyahaitaki swastirastu vishvasya. May the whole universe be auspicious. This is his prayer. Someone may doubt that if the whole universe is empowered, then that means the demons also become more powerful too, doesn't it? Therefore, he says, Kala prasidatam. May the demons, however, be pacified. Not destroyed, pacified. This is his compassion. Jayantu bhutani shivam mithodhiya. May we all develop a mentality that we think well for the welfare of each other. Now, how is that possible in a world chock full of demons? Then he says, Manascha bhadram. How you have to have an auspicious mind. How do you gain an auspicious mind? Bhajatar adhokshaje. By worshipping adhokshaja. And then finally, the most amazing thing he says, Bhajatar adhokshaje. Aveshyatam no matirapi ahaitaki. May even we enter into this, deeply into this mentality, into this bhava, this mood of transcendental loving service to the Lord. Why does he use the word even we? Api, even we? Because again, he's conscious that I'm just a demon. That's why he says this, according to the commentators on that verse. So, very, very transcendental character, Prahlad Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada was always quoting from him and always most respectful of Prahlad Maharaj. Here Prabhupada continues in his purport. People are such fools and rascals that although they see varieties of living creatures eating abominable things, pigs eating stool, crocodiles eating all kinds of flesh, and so on. Still, they don't realize that they themselves, because of their practice of eating all kinds of nonsense in this life, will be destined for that kind of future. A Vaishnava is always afraid of such abominable life, and to free himself from such horrible conditions, he engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord is compassionate to them, and therefore he appears for their benefit. Yada yada hi dharnavasya, etc. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Prahlad is not only concerned about himself, but for everybody in samsara. And similarly, one more prayer and then we'll finish. This is the next verse in the same chapter. This is Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 42. Prahlad says, Konvatrate khila guru bhagavan prayasa uttaranesya bhavasambhavalopa hetoho murheshu vai maharanugraha arthabandho. Arthabandho. Is he here? Kim tena te priyajanan onasevatam naha. You can add that to his list. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us, who engage in your devotional service. Keep this in mind always when you hear the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. He's thinking, I'm only a demon. We need to think this way, because it's a fact. Actually, we are demoniac. But the Lord shows kindness to demons who surrender. If we make our best effort to surrender, then the Lord will be kind to us. It's just a matter of time. And depending on the intensity of our desire as well, we should practice tivra bhakti, means it has to be a little bit forceful. So Prabhupada says here, the words priyajanan anusevatam naha indicate that the Supreme Lord is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. The more one becomes the servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. Tamal Krishna Goswami wrote a wonderful book that you can look up, Servant of the Servant. I highly recommend you read that book, because he shares in that book many letters that he received from Srila Prabhupada, but more importantly, he shares his own interpretation of the instructions in those letters. And that's really what gives you a clue as to the his exalted character as well. Very, very highly advanced personality, just like Jayananda is another one we were hearing yesterday. They come to this movement, they just seem to have it naturally. And that's confirmed by time. What we confirm through time is that we don't have it. But some devotees are glorified by their own spiritual master, like Jayananda. Unbelievable. Or Tamal Krishna Goswami, so much mercy. Others also, empowered devotees, many, many great, many moons, as Giriraj Swami put it. So, in this regard, Prabhupada says, Srila Notaram Das Thakur says, Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Shangi Bas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord, and let me live with those devotees. This is the purport. As Krishna also says in the 11th canto, Mad Bhakta Pujyabhidika. The Lord says, engaging in the service of my devotee is better than trying to engage in my devotional service. And Prabhupada concludes here. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlad Maharaj does not want to benefit alone, as we heard in the previous text. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in this material world may, By the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant, and thus be delivered. That servant, for your information, would be His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so there's more that we can say about this, but really I'm just here to warm up for Deena Bandhu Prabhu, who will enlighten us about the transcendental appearance and activities of Lord Nrsimhadev, and probably about his devotee Prahlad Maharaj as well, I would think. But just before we go, one more shloka, because I can't resist. Mangala Thakur says, he also prays to Lord Nrsimhadev. Narayanananta Hare Nrsimha Prahlada Badha Hara He Kripalo Jibhe Piba Swamrtameta Deva Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. He's addressing his own tongue. He says, my dear tongue, please just drink this nectar, these names. Narayana, Ananta, Hari, merciful Lord Nrsimhadev, remover of Prahlad's troubles, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. We can say that the name Kripalu, or merciful one, here indicates the Lord's compassion. The Lord's heart melts like butter upon seeing the sincere efforts of a pure devotee like Prahlad. And he removes whatever distress his devotee may feel, so he is also called Prahlada Badhahara, or another reading is Dukhartihara, means the same thing. So this is, we'll end on that note. And if you have any questions, you please ask Deena Bandhu, because he's the qualified one to answer. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavan Nrsimhadev ki jai. Bhaktavara Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gau Premanande.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatiri Satarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpadrubhyascha kripasindhu vevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So first of all, we'd like to thank our very dear godbrother Mukunda Datta Prabhu for enlightening us on so many wonderful points, especially the fact that we should never be very puffed up, just like Prahlad Maharaj. Everywhere he's saying, I'm just a demon, you know. Nrsimhadev asked him, take some benediction. Well, you don't ask me to take some benediction. I'm already a demon. I want sense gratification. Don't ask me that. But actually, and sometimes this is the biggest problem we have, especially those of us who live here in Vrindavan, that somehow we think we're special. Yeah, we're specially fallen. In the purport to Dhruva Maharaj, another great devotee, we hear in Chaitanya Mangala, we always hear about Lord Chaitanya relishing the pastimes of the gopis and Krishna and all that. But Chaitanya Mangala says, Lochan Das Thakur says, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he used to hear about Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj 100 times each. we have to understand what is a devotee. Then we can go to some higher rasas. So 100 times each. So one of the purports in Dhruva Maharaj, because his spiritual master, who also happened to be Narad Muni, told him that to go to Madhuvan. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that if one is, for one who's not very advanced in devotional service, then he should go to a place like Madhuvan or Vrindavan, so many he named so many places, and execute devotional service. But one who's very advanced, like Narad Muni, he can go all over the world and spread Krishna consciousness. So we're only here because we're the most fallen, so don't ever think that you're... Hare Krishna. As soon as I read that, I understood why I'm here. I'm the most fallen. So. And in fact, so fallen that my memory is going, and I forgot my most favorite pastime about Jayananda yesterday. Because I was reading everybody else's offerings on the net, and I forgot about my favorite pastime. It shows how much Jayananda loved prasada and what a transcendental rascal he was also. As one time, my late godbrother Keshava Prabhu, he made a program in the penitentiary. Penitentiary is a jail, for those of you who don't understand English so well, it's a jail. Especially, it's not like there's a jail where you go, you're held until you get your trial. But this, after you've been tried, then you go to the penitentiary and you have to stay there. So he made a program in the penitentiary in Oakland, which is on the same side of San Francisco Bay as Berkeley. So Keshava Prabhu, he called up Berkeley because at that time Danavir was the president there. And Danavir, he was known as Mr. Enthusiasm. So Keshava called him up and said, "Hey Danavir, we got this program in a penitentiary. So we want you to make a big pot of halava with lots of butter, because in the Western world, we don't use ghee, we make halava with butter. And I tell you, butter halava has got a very different taste than ghee halava. Special taste. And make simply wonderfuls with lots of butter and strawberries, and then we'll come over to Berkeley and pick up the Berkeley devotees, and we'll go to this program in Oakland Penitentiary." So in the old days, like now we have so many, all our cars are brand new and everything, but those days, devotee cars, you'd see them with the door was tied shut because it doesn't stay shut. It's missing something, always something. So Dayananda had this truck. It didn't have a gas pedal. This little stick was there. So he tied a string around his foot and a string to that stick, and somehow with his other foot he was managing the brake and the clutch. I don't know how. And there was no glass between the cab and the back part of the truck where the devotees would sit. So they loaded up the San Francisco devotees, they drove over to Berkeley, they loaded up all this big pot of halwa and these big trays of Simply Wonderful strawberry Simply Wonderfuls. And, they picked up on here the Berkeley devotees, and they started going down the road, and there's Jayananda with his toe tied to this little thing and managing somehow breaking clutch. And all of a sudden, Jayananda says to Keshava, because there's no glass so everybody can hear, he says, Keshava, I think the devotees would be really enthusiastic to distribute this prasadam if they had a taste. Hey, Jayananda, that's a great idea. Hey, back there, pass a couple of plates up here with halavas and Simply Wonderfuls and give some to everybody else, So somehow Jayananda is driving on the road eating halava and Simply Wonderful. I don't know how. And then Jayananda says, "Hey, Keshava, that was great. What do you think about we should have a little more, huh?" yells at the back, hey, pass out some more of those Simplies and halava. And this way, finally, all the halava and all the Simply Wonderfuls, everything was finished. And poor Danavir, he looked in the pot, and they're just, little crumbs, mixed with the butter sticking on the edge of the pots, And the Simply Wonderfuls, because, you roll the Simply Wonderfuls in the powdered milk, so just the milk powder crumbs are there on the tray. And Danavir goes, oh no, we're so fallen. We're just hearing, we have to remember this. We're so fallen. All of that prasadam that was meant for the fallen conditioned soul who were in the penitentiary, we finished it off. We're so fallen. Then they drove up to the penitentiary, right? And the guy comes in, he opens up the door and he says, you guys don't have any food in here, do you? It's against the rules to bring any food. It's against the law to bring any food inside the penitentiary. And Danavir says, no, sir, we don't have any food in this van. That was not it. That was Jayananda. Anyway, so today we have a very special day, Nrsimha Chaturdasi. And these are very special days to remember the pastimes of the Lord, which is very important for us. Because one time Prabhupada asked the devotees, what is the most important verse in Bhagavad Gita? So everybody raised their hands. No, everybody gave their favorite verse, And Prabhupada said, no, everything. So then everybody was silent, And Prabhupada said, Janma karma cha me divyam o evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punar janma naiti so iti Mami iti sojana. So, we know Janma, because from Janmastami, Janma means birth. And karma we know very well. So, Janma karma chame divyam. Almost like English, we say divine. Or Spanish, divino. Anyone who knows that my Janma and my karma, my birth and activities are divya, they're transcendental. Just like Prabhupada said, Krishna has Rasa Leela and you have Raska Leela. So Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti, just like we know Veda comes from this root vet. Anyone who knows this Veta, tattvata, in truth, if you just understand that Krishna's birth and activities are divine, transcendental. What is that? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattva tyaktva. Just like we know the word tyag, that's the noun, but in the verb is tyakt. Tyaktva deham. We know that deham means this body. So in leaving this body, what will happen? Tyaktva deham. Punarjanma nahi. Punarjanma na iti. There won't be another birth. I won't get another birth. Then what will happen? Now I have this body and I'm doing so many things. If I don't get another birth, then what will happen? Mameti. So Arjuna, oh Arjun, Mameti, you will come to me. Don't worry. You'll come to me. So Prabhupada said, if you just understand that Krishna's birth and activities are divyam, transcendental, you don't have to take birth in this material world again. So he said, this is the most important. So these are days that are very important for us to remember the birth and activities of the Lord. So this is a very wonderful opportunity for us to advance. So I was thinking about the few Nrsimhadev deities, or someone who's not a deity actually, but maybe you know when you're coming down that Banki Bihari Road and you turn into At Kamba Bazaar. There's one bazaar, it's called At Kamba, because there's a big house in the middle of the bazaar, and it has 8 pillars. So pillar is Kamba. So the whole bazaar, because of that building, became known as At Kamba Bazaar. So you turn into At Kamba Bazaar, and the first left, you're going down this little lane, and you'll come to Three-Eyed Nrsimhadev. Anybody seen Three-Eyed Nrsimhadev? Really? You're staying here in Brazil, you never saw Three-Eyed Nrsimhadev? I don't know any story about Three-Eyed Nrsimhadev, except that I found in Bhagavatam somewhere, there's some prayers where they're talking about the Krishna's, he's tree Bhuvan, tree Loki, tree this, tree that. So one of them is tree Ankh, he has 3 eyes. There's some story about Lord Nrsimhadev with 3 eyes. So you can see this Nrsimhadev there with a special eye. Very big Nrsimhadev, very cute. At his feet, there's a brass Nrsimhadev. The Pujari told me this is a very, very, he didn't know how many years old this old brass Nrsimhadev. And of course they have ISKCON picture of Prahlad Nrsimha on the altar there. It's very nice. And they're always very friendly there. So there's Three-Eyed Nrsimhadev. And then, if you know where to go, on the road behind Keshigat, there's another Nrsimhadev temple. Nice, very cute Nrsimhadev. And I only discovered him because when the State Bank of India used to be here, the teller, he was the pujari for that deity. So he told me one time and invited me to come there. So I got darshan of that Nrsimhadev. And then the one that's most important for us, because this is part of Braj Leela, is in Nandagam. There's Nanda Baba's Nrsimhadev. Who's seen Nanda Baba's Nrsimhadev? Or more people have seen him than our own one here in Vrindavan. You have to go down the back staircase of Nandagam. You come down and down and down, and you go, and you keep asking everybody for Nrsimhadev. And maybe about a kilometer or so down the hill, then you come to you go up this little lane, and you come to this beautiful Nrsimhadev temple, very cute Nrsimhadev. This was Nanda Baba's Nrsimhadev that he used to worship for Lala's protection. And an old, very ancient Braha deity is there, and what else is there? I haven't been for so long, and my COVID brain is forgetting all these things. But just in the front there's Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. You can see him, it's broken, so they don't have it inside the temple, but just in front of the temple door, there's he's lying on Ananta Shesh, and you can see the lotus flower coming up and Brahma on top. And anyway, have Gaur-Nitai also on the altar. Nice Gaudiya Vaishnava is there. Bhakti Priya, something like that is his name. He's still there, I don't know. So this very, very cute, very wonderful Nrsimhadev is there that Nanda Baba used to worship. So this is Nrsimhadev in Braj Leela. And the other one's not a deity, but sometimes we, just like several weeks ago, we went to Ramghat. At first we stopped in Shergar and saw this beautiful temple of Daoji. Bolo Sri Daoji Maharaj ki jai. But coming down the street back to go on the buses, there's a temple with all kinds of little carvings all around. So one of those carvings is this very, very beautiful Nrsimhadev, ripping Hiranyakashipu in part. But even before Gokul, even before Nandagam, because that's later part of Krishna's childhood Leela, in the very beginning of his Leela in Gokul, there's Nrsimhadev pastime. There's one time, it's a long story, but we'll make it short. Nanda Baba was putting Krishna to rest. So he got him in his bed and everything, and told Lala, now you take rest. He said, no, Baba, you have to tell stories. He said, no, you take rest. No, Baba, please tell a story. I won't take rest till you tell a story. So Nanda Baba said, well, one time there was a very big demon named Hiranyakashipu. And Prabhupada gives us the translation. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means soft bed. So this is what the demons are interested in, money and women. His name was Hiranyakashipu. And even though he was a great demon, and he conquered the whole universe, even the demigods, if he just crossed his eyebrows, the demigods would tremble. He had a son who was a great devotee of Krishna. So one time, he asked his son, what was the best thing that he learned in school? And his son said, I haven't learned anything in your school that's worthwhile, but I have learned the best thing. And then he quoted that verse, and now my COVID memory can't remember it all. Sravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atnanivedanam. That to hear and chant, remember, etc. about Lord Vishnu. He said, Lord Vishnu, you're talking about my enemy. And he became so angry. And he tried to kill his son in so many ways, Lala. He threw him off a cliff. But he was just Prahlad was just remembering the Lord. And all the, just like our president before, our Panchagoda, he had a futon business. So all the rocks became like futons. Boop, he just bounced like that. He threw him into a pot of boiling oil, but it became cool. He threw him into a pit of snakes. The snakes, wouldn't bother him. He had so many demons come, and the demons there's weapons turned against them. He tried to have him trampled on an elephant. The elephant put him on his back and took him on a victory ride. So many ways. So finally he became furious. He said, Prahlad, where do you get your power? He said, Baba, I get my power from the same place as you, from Vishnu, from God. From God? From Vishnu? Where is this Vishnu? Oh, Baba, he's everywhere. He's everywhere. Actually, he says in the Bhagavatam, he says, oh, best of the demons. Can you imagine you're talking to your father? Oh, best of the demons. He said, Baba, he's everywhere. He's everywhere? Yes, Baba. Is he in this? Is he here? Is he here? Is he in this pillar here? Yes, Baba, he's everywhere. I'll show you your Vishnu. And he pulled out his sword and he smashed the pillar. And then Lala jumped onto his bed and he went, rah! And he pretended like he grabbed Nrsimhadev and performed an operation, And then the Baba said, how does he know the end of this story? I never told this story before. How does he know the end? Anyway, Lala, take your rest. So, only other thing I could, one of the things is that he talked about the Navavida Bhakti. This is where we get Navavida Bhakti, But in Kali Yuga, we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord says, Navavida Bhakti Purna Nama Hoite Haya. That Navavida Bhakti only becomes complete, especially in this Kali Yuga, by Nam. Navavida Bhakti Nama Purna Nama Hoite Haya. Becomes complete only with Nam. And Prabhupada explains there in the purport that that we should perform all these types of these Navavida Bhakti, everything we should do accompanied by Nam Sankirtan. Just like we see, for every artik we do Nam Sankirtan. We first came to India way back in 1974. We were shocked, we went to a Hindu temple because we're used to, Artik means, Mangal Artik means, Samsara Dava Naladida Loka. Of course, here we're fortunate we get to sing Bibadish Bishesha Aloka Pravesha. And Darshanarti Govinda Mari Purusham Brajbogarti Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagar Gorarti, Sandhyarti Kiva Jayo Jaya Gora Chandi. So Artik always means kirtan to us. And we first came to India, we went to a temple, and Artik started, bang, 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 bang. Prabhupada said everything we do should be, accompanied by Nam Sankirtan. So our Artik means Nam Sankirtan. We have, Diksha Yagya, there's Nam Sankirtan. Everything there's Nam Sankirtan. Even marriage ceremony. Marriage ceremony means, Swaha, Hari Bol, and Mahaprasadi Govinde. Marriage ceremony in ISKCON very simple. Of course, they break too fast, but it's very fast and they break too fast. Indian wedding, they go on for Indian wedding, they go on for 3 days, 4 days. Once you've been through that, I'm never going through this again. You see, they last. But everything is with Nam Sankirtan. So never been about Purna Nama Hoite Hai. One time, I was in Dallas, I think. And Giriraj Maharaj was there with Tamal. And the verse that I got was that verse where it's explained that to keep the word of Prahlad, the Lord appeared as Nrsimhadev. He says, because he said it, he's everywhere, he's in this pillar, So just to keep his word, the Lord appeared from that pillar. So Giriraj Maharaj told me that one time Prabhupada was in Bombay. I can't remember where it was, but anyway, he was with Prabhupada, because it was Giriraj, so it must have been Bombay. And he said, when Setiji, because we remember that Prabhupada had one very dear friend named P.L. Sethi. You can read about him in the Leelamrit. He's the one who, when they were breaking the temple, he managed, to stop the breaking of the temple, and he had a construction company, so he rebuilt the temple and everything. So he was very dear to Prabhupada. And every time Prabhupada came to Bombay, P.L. Sethi would come to visit him. And one day they were going on a program, and Prabhupada said to Giriraj, "Where's P.L. Sethi? I haven't seen him." He said, "Oh, he's very sick. He's very sick. He can't come." And they were meeting a very big person, but immediately Prabhupada said, "You cancel the program, we're going to Sethiji's house." And he came there and he said, "Sethiji, you're not coming." He said, "Guruji," although he wasn't initiated, he always considered Prabhupada as Guru. He said, "Guruji, I'm very sick. They give him, I assume it was a pacemaker." He said, "There's some machine that, connected with his heart. Without this machine, I can't live for more than 5 minutes." And Prabhupada said, "Sethiji, you take that machine and you throw it out the window." I said, "You take that machine and you throw it out the window." So Sethiji took his machine, I guess it was a pacemaker, and he threw it out the window. And Prabhupada said, "I will see you die." And he preached to him, what is that? It's Jama Karma stuck in my brain. All the verses about the soul, somehow I can't, COVID made my brain funny. Dehinosminyata dehe komaram jovanam, all those, nahanyate hanyamane sarire, all those verses Prabhupada was just throwing at him. For 1 hour Prabhupada was preaching to him, and he didn't die. And he used to come here and do pool bungalow during the summertime, and have big feasts for all the devotees. Pool bungalow for Prabhupada in the Samadhi in here, And He lived longer than Prabhupada. This was after, when I was president, he used to come here and do. I convinced him. He was doing for Banki Bihari because he's a great devotee of Banki Bihari. I said, this is Prabhupada's temple. Why did you do here? So he started pool bungalow and feast here for all the devotees. Krishna said he has to die. This is his time. And I said, but I told him that he's not going to die. He said, no, but he has to die. I had a big fight with Krishna. I said, then your devotee's word is going to go false. So I won. And he lived, I forget how old he was when he finally left this world. He used to come here every time. So, my God, so, anyway, that's another interesting pastime. Now, we heard that Prahlad Maharaj's spiritual master was Narad Muni. So, if you've ever been on Govardhan Prikrama, just after Kusum Sarovar, there's a big gate, and you go through and you go way back, and there's Narada temple in Narada Kund. And the Mahant there, his name is Deena Bandhu. Deena Bandhu Sharan. Just like we put Das on the end of our names, there's a certain branch of Nimbarka Sampradaya, they put Sharan. Just like Krishna said, Mamekam Sharanam Brata. So to take shelter of the lotus feet, become the Das, almost practically the same. So he's Deena Bandhu Sharan. And if anyone's interested, he's getting old like me. So he's tired of managing. You can ask all the managers what a headache it is. He's begging me all the time that you please take over this temple. So he has a nice Goshala, he has huge temple. It used to be a tiny little place. He has huge Goshala, huge temple there. So if you want some nice service in Braj and stay here for the rest of your life and serve, there's a beautiful place there, Narada Kund in Govardhan, waiting for you. So he told me, I think it was Janardhan Maharaj also mentioned the other day that this is the place where Narad Muni has his ashram. Because Narada Kund, the story that they tell is that one time Narad Muni was there near Kusum Sarovar and he began to offer Krishna appeared and he offered so many beautiful prayers to Krishna. And Krishna was very pleased and said, hey Narad, why don't you stay here and do your bhajan? He said, but Prabhu, I'm cursed. I cannot stay anywhere for a few minutes. Are Narada, that's in the material world. This Brajadam is not part of that material world. That curse has no standing here. So there, according to him, this is where he wrote Narada Bhakti Sutras and Narada Bhakti Narada Churcha, and all these wonderful books about bhakti. And he says, I haven't seen any Shastra Praman yet, but he says this is the place where Narad Muni brought Kayadu. Everybody knows who Kayadu is? Mother of Prahlad Maharaj, yes. Because we know the story that Hiranyakashipu was off performing his austerities and the demigods took advantage, they attacked, and she was pregnant with Hiranyakashipu's son. So they were going to take her away, and Narad Muni says, hey, what are you doing? He said, no, we're not going to harm her, but she's carrying the seed of this demon. It will be a bigger demon than Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad said, you can't kill him, you don't know who he is, You let her come with me. So we know Narad Muni can't stay any place except here in Braj, so that must be his ashram. That's where the ashram that he took. That's right here in our Braj. This is where Narad Muni Prahlad Maharaj got his instruction. And he was in the womb. Because Prabhupada explains that in the Shastra it says that at 7 months the child becomes conscious. And it begins to pray, please get me out of here. Of course, the trauma of birth is so great, he forgets everything. But Prahlad always remembered. by the mercy of his spiritual master. So it's very important when the ladies are with child that, especially in the later months, they should read very loudly and chant very loudly for the benefit of the child in the womb. So, because just hearing from Narad Muni within the womb of his mother, he became one of the 12 Mahajans. Prahlad became one of the 12 Mahajans just by hearing from Narad Muni. So that was there in Narada Kund in Govardhan. A very beautiful place. Now the Kund was just completely neglected, but now government has, fixed it up very sweetly, and it'll be very nicely. It's all the nice Prikama Marg all around the Kund, and Deena Bandhu Dasharan, he's made a nice dharmshala there, and he made a huge, because just tiny little temple. It was probably like the room that your guest house room wherever you're staying. It's probably about that big was the temple. But now he's got this huge temple there, beautiful life-size deities. He's named them Priya Priyatam. Priya Priyatam, life-size deities of Radha and Krishna. And then on the right side, life-size deity, brass deity, shiny brass deity, Narad Muni with his veena. Because Nimbarka Sampradaya, they also claim Narad Muni in their Sampradaya. Because we know Narad Muni, he gets around, so he... so then, on the left side altar, and the Pujari's, what is his name? His name is Prahlad. The Pujari, his name is Prahlad, and he's 80% deaf. You have to scream at him. Still, he doesn't understand anything. But nice old Baba with big white beard. Anyway, on the very far left side is Hans Avatar, because the Hans Gopal, because the Nimbarka Sampradaya, they trace their line coming down from the Hans Avatar, the swan incarnation of the Lord. So the Hans Gopal, and then you see Narad Muni, then you see 4 little black faces, that's the 4 Kumaras, and then you'll see, sort of darkish fellow in the front, that's Nimbarkacharya, and then on his, next to him is Srinivas, his most famous disciple. So there's a big, huge temple there now, and he's planted so many trees, people trees and kadamba trees, and right on the ghat there's a Paras people tree. There's we have this big people tree in front of Prabhupada's Samadhi. There's another tree, it also has leaf that's, with a little tail, but it's curly, it's a curly leaf. So they call it Paras people. And in Kartik time, it gets 5 different colored flowers. There's every color from yellow to red. You get yellow, yellowish orange, orange, orangish red, red. There's 5 different colored flowers, beautiful little flowers that come on this tree. And then they get these big pods that sometimes you can probably get them in Loi Bazaar. They're great big black pods like this, they string them together. This is Paras people. So he's made this place very, very nicely like that. So, and I was trying to think about all the connections of our Braj and Krishna Leela. I was breaking my head trying to remember something with the gopis. My dear friend Iswar, he's tipped me off that maybe in Vidagdha Madhav, that's one place I haven't looked yet. The gopis are describing the different incarnations. Because we know just down the street here, just on the Prikama Marg, you go down to the Prikama Marg and you go past the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and then it turns right. That's the old bank of Jamuna. Jamuna used to flow there, and that used to be the bank of the Jamuna. So right at that corner, that's called Barahagat. And one time, Krishna was doing Ras Leela with the gopis, and there's many people who try to tell you that Seva Kunj or Nidhi Ban, these are the places where Ras Leela took place everywhere within the Prikrama Marg. In Seva Kunj, we know they got tired and Krishna did Seva, massaging Radharani's feet. You can see beautiful representation there of that. And in Nidhiban, that's where they took rest. But Ras Leela was going everywhere. So somewhere at that point, they were by the bank of the Jamuna, and the gopis were challenging Krishna. You're always telling you were Ram, you were Parsuram, you were, Matsya, Kurma. We don't believe it, So then Krishna manifested this beautiful Baraha Rupa. Just like the wife of our Surdas in Bombay in charge of Bhakti Kali Kshetra. His wife's name is Braharupa. But this is a Madhurya Ras Braharupa. But I couldn't find anything about the gopis and Krishna, but we'll have to, Krishna Leela. So we'll have to search through now Vidagdha Madhav and see. He said, he tipped me off, maybe we'll find something there. But that's about everything I think all the connections of Braj with Nrsimhadev Leela. Because we pretty much all know the Leela. And in fact, that was the first Leela that I learned. Because when I became a devotee, the first thing I did, I challenged Bhavananda. Bhavananda made me a devotee. So I challenged, I said, Bhavananda, all talking is nonsense. Because my friend Srivas and I, whose name was Sunshine in those days, not because of the sun, but those who from my generation, you understand. We would speculate at the speed of mind, and we'd always come to the conclusion, it's beyond words. And then we look at each other and say, why did you say that? Or we come to the conclusion, there's nothing to be said. Then why did you say that? So I was always running into this brick wall, because we like, that, God is this big, the white light, we merge into the white light and become one. It's all one, become one with everything, And you stop talking because there's only one, And even before I was a devotee, people told me, you don't tell stories, you tell movies. So I knew I wasn't going to stop talking. And I told Bhavananda, but all talking is nonsense. He said, yes, unless you're chanting Hare Krishna or talking about Krishna. That is a transcendental vibration. They'll liberate your consciousness and bring it to the transcendental platform. I said, wow. And somehow the first story I heard was Nrsimhadev, So everybody who come, we finally found a place. That's an interesting story also. Because we were staying with some hippies in a log cabin. It wasn't sawn wood, like this. It was, you could see it cut in half, you could see the logs like that. It was a real log cabin. And they were looking for a place to stay, but these hippies that gave them permission to stay with them outside of Boulder, about 15 miles. So we were madly looking for a place to rent. And Bhavananda and his wife Palika, they went to every real estate agent. They answered every ad in the newspaper. And Boulder's a college town. The University of Colorado had Boulders there. And this was September. You know what September means? School. In America, it means school starts. You just had summer vacation, now school starts. So we were, and the paper commented that there was 1,600 students, 1,600 students looking for off-campus accommodation. So we were in competition with 1,600 students, and nobody knew what a Hare Krishna was. We looked weird. So finally one day on Sankirtan, because I had my whole line, we would chant, we distribute back to Godheads. And I'd always tell everyone, we're looking for a place. If you know some place, we want to start a temple and have free feasts and everything. Please tell us. And somebody told me, I heard there's a place on Concord Street. So I went back and I told the devotees, I met somebody today, he told me there's a place on Concord Street. And the devotees look at me, where's Concord Street? I don't know. What's the address? I don't know. Spaced out hippie, hopeless. Because I had hair down to here. We didn't have time because we'd drive into Boulder in the morning and come back at night. Never had time to shave me up yet, so. I spaced out hippie, hopeless. So then again, on Sankirtan, somebody told me, I heard there's a place on Concord Street. And I went back and I told the devotees, somebody again told me there's a place on Concord Street. Where's Concord Street? Forgot to ask. What's the address? Forgot to ask. Hopeless case. So this big football jock came by, football player, American football. They just bang into each other, And they never take back to gods. They never stop for anything. But he stopped. And he listened to my spiel. And I said, if you know a place, please tell us. He said, well, I heard there's a place on Concord Street. And I wasn't going to go back and have the devotees look at me out of the corner of their eyes. I said, where's Concord Street? I don't know. Ask at a gas station. You call them petrol pumps here. In America, we're called gas stations. Because in the old days, gas stations were mom and pop operations, If you wanted to know anything, who's the best carpenter, who's the best electrician, who's the best painter, who's the best carpenter, you went to the gas station and they would tell you, Nowadays, it's all self-service. And they have some guys behind you in a bulletproof glass, and if you ask him any question, he'll probably start shaking and push the button, They call the police, And anyway, he's from India. He doesn't know the town. But those are mom and pop operations. Just go to the gas station and ask. Because if you want to know anything, where is anything, you ask the guy at the gas station. I said, what's the address? Well, I don't know, but if it's for sale, it's for rent, there must be a sign up front. Why didn't I think of that? So I went back and I said, this is the third time. Very auspicious. I realized in Krishna consciousness we only have few adjectives. Auspicious, blissful, ecstatic, and nice. And this is after we were told in our grammar class, don't ever use the word nice. It doesn't mean anything. But when Prabhupada said, that's nice, then you knew what nice was. So I said, very auspicious, third time somebody told me there's a place on Concord Street. Yeah? Where's Concord Street? He didn't know, but he said, ask at a gas station. So I said, that makes sense. He said, what's the address? He didn't know, but he said, for rent, there must be a sign out front, right? And he said, yeah. Well, they'd already been to every newspaper, every real estate agent. They had to listen to me finally. So we went to a gas station. The guy said, oh, Congress Street is this funny street. It doesn't cross Broadway. Because everything crossed Broadway in Boulder. You have to go up to Sunset Street. You go over 3 blocks. Then you turn left. The next block, there's this block-long street called Concord Street. So we went there and we drove up and down, no signs. But there was a house that was empty. So there was a lady pushing her stroller, little baby in a stroller, and said, you know anything about this house? He said, if it's for rent, I don't know, but the landlord is in the corner, you could ask him. So I had hair all over the place and looked strange, so they kept me in the car. It wasn't really a car, it was an old 47 beat up green Ford pickup truck. So they left me in the car. Bhavanand, he didn't have a dhoti on, but his wife had a sari. And he had a bit more hair than this, but he had a sika. And they went into the house, and I was outside in the car, and I was praying, oh, Krishna, we've been everywhere. Please let us get this place. Please get us. Then I remember the devotee said, you can't go to Krishna directly. You got to go to Radharani. So then I was praying, oh, Radharani, please let us get this. Then I remember they said, you can't go to Radha Krishna directly. You got to go through Lord Chaitanya. So I said, oh, Lord Chaitanya. Then I remember you can't go to Lord Chaitanya. You got to go through Lord Nityananda first. So I prayed to Lord Nityananda. And then they said, you can't go to him either. You got to go through Prabhupada. So I was praying to Prabhupada. And then I heard something about somebody named Nard Muni. So I threw him in. And Jai Vijay, I threw them in. And the guy rented the place to us. And when we moved in, the landlord next door said, "You guys have somebody up there." Because all summer long, not less than 100 people came to rent that place. What had happened was the landlord was an all-rounder. He was a carpenter, plumber, electrician, painter, everything. And he worked for a company that did restorations. But he had bought this place, he was going to retire, and divided it all up into apartments like everybody else does in Boulder, and rented to the students. But that day, they didn't want him to retire, so they offered him a raise. They put a bigger carrot on the end of the, he was a Muda, So he decided to go after that raise. Then he wouldn't, if he was working, then he didn't have time to fix up that place. He said, just rent the whole house. That night, he had made the decision to rent the house, and we walked in the door, and he rented it to us. So everybody who came to that temple, I would just take them over to the picture in Nrsimhadev, and I tell the story. I know what people thought. The first thing they come in the Krishna temple, and there's some guy who was half man, half lion, ripping this guy. Well, we made lots of devotees there in Portland, in Boulder. That was a special place. So anyway, there's some little thoughts about Nrsimhadev that I'll put out to you. Maybe somebody has some questions, or maybe somebody knows some other Nrsimhadev that I don't. Oh, there's one on the Prickama Marg when you go from Govardhan to Radhakund on the back side. There's a Nrsimhadev temple there somewhere. Used to be.
On the top of Punchilika, just opposite of Punchilika Lota,
There
is a one deity of Nrsimhadev.
Really? I've always been so absorbed in Puchrigalota, I never saw it. All right.
Just opposite of Punchilika Lota.
Oh, yeah. By Apsarakund.
Yeah.
That's right. Next to, that's right. And Indraduna Maharaj just fixed it up. We went there. It's all beautiful carved stone and everything. And now the old guy was sort of cranky. Now there's a pujari there is very sweet, and I don't know if he'll do it for everyone, but I was just seeing Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's, Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's photo book about Govardhan, and he got a picture, and he had the guy lift up the Nrsimhadev's dress. And you see he's holding the string. You have to see the picture to understand. He's holding the Nrsimhadev in a funny way and ripping it apart in a funny way. It's very interesting. So maybe if you go there and talk to the guy sweetly, he'll lift up the dress where you can see also. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one. Nrsimhadev is there in Govardhan at Puchari. Because in Hindi, Poonch means tail. So that's the Poonch of Govardhan. So that village is called Punchari. So just behind Apsarakund on a high hill, you have to walk way up this ramp and then up these steps. And beautiful little Nrsimhadev is there.
Maybe you can tell the story of Prabhu's previous life. Prostitute and the head of the
Oh yeah, Bhakti Janardhan Maharaj, he also mentioned that somehow he was with some prostitute, right? And somehow, because the nature of these things, men and women, somehow they have big fights. So he had a big fight with his girlfriend. So he fasted all day. And just happened to be Nrsimha Chaturdashi. So somehow when he died, then he took birth as Prahlad Maharaj. Huh?
He was in the forest. There was a temple, an old temple of Nrsimhadev.
Huh?
He was in the forest, looking for the prostitute.
Yeah.
And then there was a big stump here, big stump. So he was looking for a shelter. And then he saw an old building, a dilapidated building. So he took shelter there.
Yeah.
And that building happened to be the abandoned temple of Lord
Acha. Okay. Any other questions? All right, way in the back. Where's our Bhakta Mike?
I have one question.
All right. Give here first. Just, Prabhuji, instead of going all the way back, there's one here. Then we'll send it back. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So, one devotee asked me, Prabhuji, recently visited Mayapur Dham. So, he told me, Prabhuji, now, I'm a worshipper of Krishna. I like Krishna, I love very much. But slowly, I getting attachment to Nrsimhadev also. So, it won't happen, so I can depart to Nrsimhadev. I don't want to go to Nrsimhadev because I'm taking darshan and slowly I'm getting attachment also to Nrsimhadev. So what is this? If I get attachment to Nrsimhadev, so I don't want to go to Nrsimhadev, I want to go to Krishna.
We prayed. I was hoping I would find some lila where the gopis are praying for Lord Nrsimhadev to rip the fear of separation from Krishna from their hearts. But anyway, Mahaprabhu worshipped Lord Nrsimhadev. Prabhupada told us to worship Lord Nrsimhadev. Prabhupada said, you just grab onto my dhoti and I'll take you back to home back to God. If we just follow Prabhupada, we have no problems. So Prabhupada told us to worship Lord Nrsimhadev, so if you're attached, fine, no problem, you're still going back to Godhead. So way in the back there's a question. Oh, one other thing, by accident, I found in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, in a purport in Chaitanya Bhagavat, he explains that the reason why Sridhar Swamis could understand Srimad Bhagavatam is because he was a worshipper of Lakshmi Nrsimha. He was a devotee of Lakshmi Nrsimha. And that service attitude gave him the ability to enter into the secrets of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna Guruji. I was thinking this morning that when Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, that was in Ahovalam?
Some people say that was a hovel. I really don't know. And some people say that, well, his kingdom, where he was killed there, but there's some people who say there's a village in UP called Hardoi, and those villagers claim that's the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu. There's many places that claim Hiranyakashipu in where is it? Where he's always covered with chandan all year long? Simachalam. No, Simachalam, yeah.
Yeah, that's
in Visakhapatnam. Yeah, I was there. They took me to that deity, but you can't see him except today.
Well, in either place, even if he was killed in UP or Ahovalam, my question actually, what I was thinking was that he went to wash his hands in Mayapur in Nrsimhapali. I mean, so far.
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
Lord's pastimes are divya, they're divine. Don't try to measure things that he went so far. For Lord, there's no far. They never said, they don't say that he was killed there in Hardoi, they just say it has palace there, so he might have been killed in Ahovalam. And Nrsimhadev gave him the blessing, because actually when he asked Prahlad, just like Prabhuji was saying, I'm a demon, if you want, ask me for some benediction, I just want sense gratification. You don't ask me this question, don't give me, he said, please take something. So they said, all right, my father, he had no hopes of, liberation, so you please liberate my father. So Nrsimhadev assured him that not only your father, but I can't remember, was it 10 generations of behind and ahead will all be liberated because you became a Vaishnava. So becoming a Vaishnava, you're doing the best thing for your family and relatives. And amazing things happen, just like my dear friend Bandhu, when he started becoming a devotee, when he became vegetarian, because in Bengal that's a shocking thing. Everybody eats fish. So even he was, he's from a Brahmin family, but even they were eating fish. They were telling him, "You're nuts, you're crazy. You're goat, you know, because eating salads, you know, the wonderful prasadam we have, you know. His uncles died, and all of a sudden everybody was coming up and asking to become devoted. And
from the classes from Prabhu and Mada also personally. Today we are celebrating Nrsimhadev. Actually, this Nrsimhadev occurred in Multan. It's a mentioning in the Paduran. Multan in now Pakistan.
Oh yeah, that's another place, right? Another.
Brahmaji, he asked, nobody.
Tell that. Yeah. There's one pundit here in Vrindavan when I was a young devotee, so I never bothered asking the Praman, but he just told me that there's one, somewhere some Puran that describes that one of the benedictions that he took that I won't be killed in the 12 months. So he was killed in Adhik Mas. So he claims that the real Nrsimha Chaturdasi only happens maybe every 11 to 19 years, because if you study, you'll see that just like now we're gonna if it comes in the middle of Vaishak, that happens, it can happen anywhere from 11 to 19 years apart. Just like the same thing with what do you call it? Navakalevaram. They say 12 years because it's too complicated to explain, that when Adhik Mas will come between Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra, and that's been happening lately every 19 years. In 77, when Prabhupada disappeared, was Navakalevaram. The next one was 96, when Prabhupada's centennial was there. And next one was, 19 years after that, I can't remember. So one pundit in here in Vrindavan, he told me that as a young devotee here in Vrindavan, that real Nrsimha Chaturdasi only happens when there's a double Vaishak. So maybe 19 years.
So in Multan,
Yeah.
Lord Shiva is mentioning to Parvati Mata. There is mentioning in Padam Brahman. So Rishabhan says his name is Harit Muni and his wife. And they worship Lord and Lord then appeared, so they asked the womb, I need like a son, like Nrsimhadev. Then Nrsimhadev appeared from like a baby Nrsimhadev. So that's the Nrsimha Chaturdasi we are celebrating. It's mentioned in Padam.
Yeah. So when things like this happen, the Goswamis always say, Yuga Bhed. Well, that was a different Yuga. So, because Multan, there's a big, gigantic pillar there that they claim is the pillar that Nrsimhadev appeared from. And when the Yodhya thing happened, they attacked Multan, and the wall was leaning this way, and they were trying to break it so it would fall that way. It fell this way and killed all the people that were trying to break it down. And I can't remember right now because of my brain, but anyway, I can remember devotees have so many experiences with Nrsimhadev saving them. Because I remember my dear departed god sister Chaitanya Dasi, she had twins, and somehow there was so many complications. And she was chanting, Nrsimhadev prayers as they were being born, and suddenly in her mind she saw Nrsimhadev appeared, and in her vision somehow Nrsimhadev appeared and saved her, and both her twins are very healthy girls now. So I don't know if anybody else has some Nrsimhadev Leela, but anyway, its time is up. We've discussed Evam Yove Tatvata. Now we know in truth Lord's Leelas are inconceivable. So tyaktva deham, after leaving this body, punar janma na, we have no more birth. So we'll all fall down to the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality who's delivered us this, delivering demons like us. Srila Prabhupada ki.